In this lesson, we're going to take a look at how to solve multiplication and division equations that involve rational numbers. So that would be including fractions, as you see in the first example, 3a equals -4, and negative numbers. Multiplication and division, like x divided by 6 equals -5/8. So we're going to look at a skill in the next slide that's going to be really important in solving division equations. You might remember that you can use division to undo multiplication, and you can use multiplication to undo division. There is another way that you can undo division, and that is to use the multiplicative inverse of a number. So in the first example, or the first thing I'm going to look at is 2/3 times a certain number would equal 1. And that number is the multiplicative inverse of 2/3. The definition of the multiplicative inverse of a given number is whatever you multiply that given number by to get 1. So the multiplicative inverse of 2/3 will be something that you multiply by to get the number 1. And all you need to do, you might remember, is that you have to flip. If it's a fraction, you just flip it. So put the numerator in the denominator, so put 2 in the denominator, and put the denominator in the numerator, and you get 2/3 times 3/2. The 3's cancel, 1, 1. The 2's cancel, 1, 1. And then you get 1. And to apply that, if you have an equation like 2/3 times a number, a equals 4, if you multiply by the multiplicative inverse here, you'll be left on the left side with a because all this cancels out. But that's 1a. It's the same as a. And of course, then you have to multiply the 4 by 3/2 as well. And that would be 12/2, which is 6. So that's how you can, you could say with the original equation where we had 2/3 a equals 4, you can say, well, I can undo multiplying by 2/3 by dividing by 2/3, but that's just a little bit more complicated, not much, but you could do that. It's just, for a lot of times it's easier to use the multiplicative inverse to isolate the variable like that. So I'd like to take a look at two examples here. The first is x divided by -9 equals 6. So we can think, want to get x all by itself, and how do we undo dividing by -9? And the answer to that would be you multiply by -9. So we're going to multiply the left side by -9 and the right side by -9. This is a property of equality that whatever you multiply the left side by, you multiply the right side by. So this would cancel, leaving x. And then 6 times -9 gives us -54. And if you go back to the original equation, put in -54 here. -54 divided by -9. It's two negatives, so the result will be positive, and it'll be a positive 6. Look at the second example. In the second example, it's take x, multiply by 3, then divide by -2. Which is the same as multiplying by 3 over -2. And we can take the multiplicative inverse of 3 over -2. Just flip them. It's -2 over 3. It's really easy. Just think about, take this number, 3, put it down here, take the -2, put it up here. Then do the same thing to the right side. Multiply by -2 over 3. So this would cancel, leaving x equals, then -4 times -2 is 8, and 7 times 3 is 21. So that's the solution. Now when you were doing, I think it was weeks ago, you were doing problems like this, and well, they were more like problems like this. 3 times a number equals 21, and it was really easy to see that the number was 7. And the caution that I gave you then was there's harder problems coming where you need to know the process, and we're there today. You have to know the process, you have to use the properties of equality, and then it's easy peasy. Just use the process, trust yourselves, and you'll get them right.